Hey, welcome to my channel, Cerius Blaq with Cerius Blaq. I'm your host, Cerius Blaq, and today I am doing something a little bit different. About a month ago, I did an interview with a comic creator named Stephen Christian. Unfortunately, we didn't get to finish our full session of the interview due to some technical difficulties on my end. So before we get into the footage that I do have, I wanted to record this to give you a little bit more information about Steven, especially because he's doing something really cool that is out right now, so I want to touch base on that. So first things first, this is Steven here. Now, here's the unique thing about Steven. During the interview, you'll find out that he's an ex college football player, which he had a pretty interesting career, and he tells us backstory about that. But currently, he is actually a medical student and a neuroscientist. And when he's not doing neuroscience, he's making comic books. And so this is his bio here. I took this straight from his Kickstarter page, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But as you can see, he is serious business. I met this young man a few years ago, and he has always been serious business, but very charming, very funny, which you'll see in the interview following this video. So let's get right into it. First, I want to show you the video, what he is campaigning for right now. It is a very worthy endeavor, in my opinion, so take a look at this.
Both education was a world of exploration. I'm Stephen Christian, a medical researcher, animator, and business owner, and I'm excited to introduce you to my latest project, Cootie Catchers, an immersive series turning medical education into quirky adventures. It's an animated show and a comic book. It's immersive. So here's a sneak peek.
Okay, this song is kind of hitting. Yeah.
On the island of Iltopia lives my buddy Roscoe, a boy excited for a weekend picnic with his playground crush, Vanessa, when a mysterious cootie outbreak spreads across the island, causing people, including Roscoe, to vanish, leaving behind his trusty stuffed animal, Nimbus. Determined to find Roscoe, Nimbus magically comes to life, teams up with Spicy Pickles and Rambo, and embarks on a daring quest. They soon discover the source of the outbreak, King Cootie, who plans to infect everything across the island. With 5 days left until Roscoe's picnic, the Cootie Catchers race against the clock to catch all the cooties, stop the infection, and save Roscoe before it's too late. This is a story about resilience, teamwork, and friendship. Designed for preteens and young adults, the same group catching real-life cooties. Inspired by Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Magic School Bus, Osmosis Jones, and Paper Mario. All you have to do is grab a book, download the app, scan a page, and watch it all come to life. Think of it as an animated show inside a book. You can read it, watch it, listen to it, and much more. With my patent-pending headset, you can enjoy all the immersion without the hassles of holding your phone and a book. My approach to immersive storytelling is unique. I take you beyond the page, making everything a storytelling device to service the adventures. This is more than just a story. It's a world of exploration. It's immersive. Fun fact, cooties are real. They are the main bacteria that causes acne. And in 2016, the main researcher renamed it Cutibacterium to give everyone in America cooties overnight. As a kid, I struggled with acne and received poor advice that led to permanent scars on my face. As a medical researcher, I created Cootie Catchers to bridge the gaps in diagnosis and treatment, making science engaging, accessible, and impactful. You follow the progression of the cooties throughout the adventure. How they defeat them in the story is what you do in real life. Ultimately, the goal is an immersive experience that entertains, educates, and empowers, teaching skin health using evidence-based practices. This is the first step towards that goal. With your support, We can revolutionize health literacy and empower young people to take control of their well-being. So join me and Nimbus as we catch all the cooties and make the world a better place.
That was awesome. That was pretty cool. I really dig that. Now I want to go over to the Kickstarter campaign itself. Now I've already backed it, so before I go back to the main page, of course you get the book, and you download the app and stuff like that. But I thought it was really cool that he had a nice selection of add-ons, so I wanted to show you what he had in his add-on list, which is the Nimbus keychain, or you can get Spicy Pickles, which I love that name, or Roscoe. I chose the Roscoe keychain because I think that'll look cool on my keys, or Vanessa. But you can also get things like, look, he's got a jigsaw puzzle, the Island Fever AR starter pack, and Island Fever is actually another book that he did that also uses the same technology, and I have that as well. But you get, in the starter pack, you get issue 0, the augmented reality pack, and the art pack for that one. Then he's got like t-shirts, and keep in mind, he designed all of this stuff himself, including the AR experience. So, then of course, like if you have chosen something else, you can get the physical book of Cootie Catchers right here. But there's also a Spicy Pickles plush, a backpack, Nimbus plush. There's the headset that you would use to like he showed in the video. You could just wear this instead of holding your phone, which actually, yeah, I think I'll just add that right now. And then the Welcome to Iltopia AR hardcover, which is pretty dope. So there's a lot of choices here. I'm going to go ahead and, finish my payment. You know what? Let's remove that for a second because y'all don't get to see my information like that. But I'm backing it right now. Finish that up. And I'm pretty excited about this. I think this might be one of the more important books that will be coming out in the campaign this year. I really hope to see more from him in the future in this aspect, because comic books plus education is something I'm always willing to back. Okay, I am done with that, and I will now go back to sharing my screen. Let's go back to Stephen Christians. Make sure I'm following him. Created. Go through that. Oh man, there it is. See, these are his previous ones too, but this is the latest one here, Cootie Catchers. It's up right now for you to back. Still got a long time to go. So here's the main story. You can see a lot of the images from it in here. And he already told you what the story is, so we'll go over that. But I did want you to see some of the art involved, which I'm really impressed with. Look at that thing. That's right, catch some cooties. Oh, that's really cute. And the experience. How it works, you grab the book, you download the app, you scan a page, and watch it come to life in animation, voiceovers, and interactive scenes. Just like that. Like that right there. And of course he talks about why it matters, and because like I said, he's a med student and a scientist, so but yeah, then he discusses his Island Fever world here as well, which I encourage you to get involved with that as well, because it's kind of the same experience, because that's how I started with it. But yeah, that is the campaign, and we will get into, following this, you will see my official interview. It was held by myself and my co-host Chicago Landy. We got to talk to Stephen for about an hour. And if you want to learn more about him, that is the best way to do so, is watch that interview, because he talks about his college days, his football career, how he got into comics, and how he's on his path to becoming a neuroscience scientist. So very interesting young man, lots to say, very insightful. Please check it out, and I hope you enjoy. Like the video if you can, leave some comments, and make sure to follow Steven and this Kickstarter, and spread the word. I think this is a really important book, y'all. So thanks for watching, and I will get on to, we're going to move to the interview now. It will be a little choppy. Like I said, I was having some technical difficulties, but we did our best. So please muster through it. I appreciate your attention on this. Thank you so much, and I will see y'all later. Hey Slackers, welcome back to my channel, Cerius Blaq with Cerius Blaq. I am your host, Cerius Blaq, joined today by my co-host and friend, Chicago Landy. Say hello, Landy.
Hello, Landy.
Hello, Landy. Yes! I did it at the same time as her. I knew she was going to do it, and I got it. All right. And today we have a very special guest. We have visual artist and medical student, Stephen Christian. Say hello, Stephen.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How's your day going, man?
You know, it's going. I'm alive. Keep my head above water.
Oh my God. Isn't that how we all answer that these days? Like, I don't know about y'all, but people be like, "Oh man, how you doing?" And I go, "I don't know." I don't know. It's like, people be like, "Oh man, you good?" And I just go, "Sometimes."
Yep. I'm here.
Right. So we are going to get into this rich history of this young man, and I get to call him young man because I'm old, and he is not. And Landy, you will have many questions, I'm sure. I wasn't about to call you old. Why would I do that?
Just in case.
I will be going through my traditional questions, and I brought Landy in to ask her pertinent side questions because she's really good at that kind of thing. And then, Stephen, your job would be to answer the questions.
Yeah, I'll try.
Okay, everybody got it? We got it. Okay. So, before we get into the first question, I need y'all to understand. I'm about to ask Stephen the opening question, and he might be saying stuff for a while, and I need y'all to listen because he's got a lot to say. So, Stephen, please tell us the history of how you became a visual artist.
Yeah, okay. So, it was like back in 2011, I was playing football at the University of Hawaii, and I was getting ready to have my second hip reconstructive surgery. And so during that time, I was just all football, going to school, all that stuff. And football, I didn't realize occupied pretty much a lot of my identity and my time. And so when I knew that that was sort of going to be in limbo, after after having your second surgery, you don't know if you're going to be playing anymore. Right. Yeah. So I needed to find a way to not only fill that time so that I could sort of recover and all that, but also if football didn't work out, I needed to figure out what was my kind of exit plan, right? And and so I had some time to do that over the summertime, leading into my surgery in the fall. But it was really just and also my Xbox got stolen, and so I couldn't even just lean in my Xbox got stolen. So I was I'm going, and I ended up being in a wheelchair for a couple of months, and so it was just I'm in a wheelchair. I ain't got no Xbox. I ain't got no hobbies. What the heck am I going to do? I can't play football anymore. And I think I had surgery on my 21st birthday. So it was I can't get a drink, all types of stuff. It was bad. And so what happened was I ended up sitting down. And it was just okay, what do I like? What do I care about outside of football? And I was I really like the Boondocks. I really like, I'm a big Pokemon head, all those different things. So I was okay, what if I just try to be an animator? I just threw that out there. I was I like cartoons. Let me just make those, right? Didn't know what I signed up for. But I was just okay. So I ended up going to Borders Books, back when it was actually shutting down, right? So I ended up going to Borders Books, and I was just sleuthing trying to find some stuff. I saw this web comics for teens book, right? And it was just how do you make web comics? But it's geared towards a teen audience, right? And so ended up getting that for $5 or $6. I ended up getting one of those bamboo Wacom Cintiqs, and I had a $200 Dell computer, and I just and I just pretty much just I had time to work on stuff, and so I just started just making stuff, and I tried to recreate the Boondocks essentially, because mind you, this was back in 2011, right? So I think the third or the fourth season of the Boondocks didn't come out yet. So like it was pretty much over at that point. And like all these sort of like, diverse, like IPs that we like sort of take pride in, and like the Marvel Cinematic Universe was barely around type of thing. Like it was like it was just the landscape of the internet. Like Vine didn't even come out yet. Like it was a different landscape of the internet, right? And so I ended up, grit my teeth and just sort of like learning how to like make comics first, because I tried doing animation. That was really hard. Like, and I didn't have a sense of humor. And that's really hard. And so I was like, okay, let me just make comics first. And I ended up like walking down the street. When I like, after I got out the wheelchair, ended up walking down the street probably like 4 or 5 months later. And I saw like an ad for like the school newspaper needed like a cartoonist. And so then I was just like, oh crap, let me make some samples real quick. And so like the first comics that I made ended up being like the samples that I sent to them, and they just like, accepted me. And so then I was getting published like 3 times a week. And so like then I just started. So like for the first like, from like February to like when I graduated from Hawaii, I was getting, published 3 times a week in like the paper. And so I got used to just like, on the job, just sort of like learning how to like write stories, learning how to create visually, learning how to like take stuff from current events and sort of incorporating that into like the creative work. And then after I graduated, I was like, well, I could still play football, or, I told myself that. And so I ended up getting into a graduate program at Oregon State, and essentially like transferring to Oregon State to like finish out my like playing career. And so, so I ended up going to Oregon State, and pretty much took the transfer from like that school newspaper, or like the Hawaii school newspaper, to like the Oregon State school newspaper. And so it was just like, oh yeah, I was already doing this. So like, let me just do this here. And they're like, cool. And you're an athlete? Cool. Yeah.
And so, there was like no problem with the transition whatsoever?
No, I was a student. So like, they saw the stuff that I was doing. Mind you, like I was getting published 3 times a week from like February to like May. So like by the time I left Hawaii, like I probably had like 90 publications under my belt. Like,
How do you feel? I mean, obviously I don't expect you to remember everything, but do you remember what the reception was like for those first, for your first project? Like, was it well received? Did you get any feedback?
Honestly, I was just like, the fact that I could just do it, and then I go to the newspaper stand, and like people will see it. Like, I think for me, it was just, I think, mind you, right? Like, this is sort of like having a Cintiq was like unfathomable, right? Like the fact that like somebody knew somebody that was in the paper every week, that was a thing, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just sort of the novelty of it. I think really the novelty and the consistency of it. That was the thing for me, and that really helped me because it allowed me to really like find my voice visually as an artist, right? Because mind you, I was just a football player, so like I needed to find a way to like channel that into something productive. And what better way to do that than to get published every like a whole bunch of times, right? And so because like you have something tangible to show. And so it would always be like, I run into people and they're like, oh yeah, I saw your comic in the newspaper and this and this and this. You just don't really know who reads the paper like that, right? And so I had like academic awards and stuff at Hawaii as well. So like it all kind of came to this head where like I became known for just sort of like me just kind of doing my thing and like setting myself apart. And so that really like played out at the head of Hawaii, because I really didn't have the best experience there, but I left I had an impact there, and that was very clear. So when I got to Oregon State, and I was actually playing, like ended up like starting the first game and all that stuff, like I was actually playing, and then you go to the paper, and then like you have a comic for me in the paper, while I'm also like playing on ESPN and all that stuff. Then it just like it really allowed me to like really like come into my own. And but like interesting thing is like I think we ended up being like ranked 9th in the country my first year at Oregon State. And so there was like there were like attention and eyes on us. And so I was like national awards and stuff. So like the like reckless, like I wouldn't say recklessness, but like the liberties that I would normally give myself creatively to like explore different topics and comics and stuff like that. A lot of it's like a social commentary. There were times where like the coaches would be like, "Hey, Steve, we saw your thing in the paper. What do you mean by this?" I'm just like,
oh, no.
And it's just like, it's so like, I like, as well received as it was, and like as encouraged as it was, it really gave me like a good idea of like how far you could sort of teeter the line and be okay. But then like if you cross that line, like you're going to find out about it really quickly. And so and it was interesting because because like they don't not want me to do it, but they also like, you can't be as edgy and like cavalier as you would like, especially in it, because even though it's the character saying the things, like you're the one writing it and it's your name attached to it. And so and so like you can't hide behind the creativity. You can't hide behind those things because
I would say that's actually it is very fortunate that you learned that lesson there that early on.
Yeah, very much so. And so the avenues to express yourself can be in conflict very quickly, and it can escalate very quickly. But like I think for me, being able to balance like what I feel compelled to do versus what I need to do to just sort of be consistent, that and being able to manage your time and be like, okay, I could talk about these things, but it will take longer. Or I could do the sort of tongue-in-cheek thing and just sort of save the stuff that takes longer for later and really be efficient with like your creativity. One, so you don't burn out, but two, so that like you don't get your spot, you don't lose your spot in sort of like on the paper or whatever. And because like there's only so much space. And so when, if you don't rise up to the plate, then like somebody's gonna be there, and somebody probably will be there for a while. So like that, like I think for me, taking the like core tenets that I like learned from football, from like playing major Division I college football, and applying that to like the arts and thing and like the creative space. I mean, like that, like I attribute all my success to that, or just all the stuff I've been able to do up until this point. I'm just like, okay, well, I'm used to spending this amount of time like on the field. I could do that at a desk. Like my body don't hurt. Like I could take a water break wherever. Like it just like it's and I feel, and you get that added bonus of like this stuff isn't like a temporary thing that's subjected to sort of the very real realities of like football, right? Like you sprain your toe and then like like you might lose your spot in practice because you're not at 100%, right?
Yep.
And whereas with this, it's like, okay, as long as I get some sleep and I make some stuff and put it in the right spaces and let people know about it and take it seriously, then other people will take it seriously and opportunities will come from it, right? So like it was really helpful, going through sort of like undergrad and masters, or like just playing football, and like in the context of like finding my voice creatively. And when football sort of ended, I felt like all the time and energy that I spent sort of crafting this sort of artist identity for myself, it allowed me to really like shift that focus very quickly to that, right?
Okay.
I think the thing that like was very clear, the thing that kind of sucked was that like within like the NCAA sort of like ecosphere, whatever, they have all this hype about like, oh, you're preparing guys for this or that outside of the field and all that stuff. Like I was up for academic awards and I was unhireable for 4 to 5 years. That's just what it was, right? And any of the things that I actually got opportunities from was because of the things I was doing on the side that like they told me not to do because it was a distraction from my sport. And then that's the stuff that I was immediately falling back on, right? And so it's for me, it like the frustrations and the realities of being a student athlete that took the student athlete part seriously, and seeing how that, like, you were kind of just like sold essentially like a dream that isn't really, that has no infrastructure behind it. Like, it just, you feel some type of way, and I feel like I was able to channel that into something creative that I could sort of like look back at and look at and reflect on and be like, okay, this project was a moment in my life that got me through this, and this is what it speaks to, right? And so, like, when I finished at Oregon State,
right,
I ended up publishing self-publishing my first book, which was like my master's thesis. And it was like a 60-page graphic novel on exploring the reasons why successful student athletes have success on the field, but don't have that same level of success off the field. And it's sort of looking at the motivation and the dynamics around that. And then I just ended up doing like a Kickstarter. I think in like 2012, ended up doing a Kickstarter, and I ended up being able to like self-publish that, and that got me into like, okay, like, this is what it takes to, instead of focusing on like newspaper publishing, I could do my own sort of like avenues of publishing, as long as I know how to get an ISBN number and sell stuff essentially and make it and sell it. Then I found myself kind of like in the entrepreneurial space. Didn't want to be there, but that's where it was.
Well, I think you were in the right place to do that, because
yeah.
Portland in Oregon, to be a comic creator, it kind of just leads you down that path.
Well, interestingly enough, I didn't know any of that, right? The only reason, like, kid you not, right? So I ended up, so when I left Oregon State after I did my Kickstarter, I ended up moving to LA because I got hired to do a documentary, and that documentary was on the business of college athletics. And so I got hired as an animator to do all the animations for it. And the reason they found out about it is because they found out about my Kickstarter project. And so the director ended up, because it was essentially like the same topics, right?
Right.
And so they were like, hey, we need an animator. We saw you did the thing with like your Kickstarter, and we like it. And so would you be interested in doing that, right? So moved down to LA, worked on a whole bunch of different like animated stuff for that. And it was a great experience, but I didn't know how, like, I thought, okay, I have a body of work. I have a master's degree. I have this project. I could just go into any creative studio or creative agency and just like leave with that and be like, hey, give me an internship, whatever, right? No. Like, no.
Unfortunately,
no. They was like, huh, you have a master's and no work experience? Okay.
Yeah.
That was it. Like, and so I literally ran out of all the money that I made doing the documentary. I didn't know how long it took for like things to be completed in production, and then they would go through the music, like the film festival route and all that. I was like, dude, like, people aren't going to see this till like next year. What am I going to do? And so it was couch surfing for like 6 months. After that, moved back with my dad in the Bay Area, and then I was just like, okay, I can either go back to school and like I just threw it out. I was just like, I'm gonna just try to go to medical school, right? And so I was just like, I could go back to school.
Stop, pause. Stop, don't just throw that out there. Like, you know what? Like, I think I like orange Tic Tacs. No, you just do. How do you?
He was in survival mode,
right? Well, no, like this is what I have very limited knowledge of like what you can do if you are good at math and science, right? And so Quince is like very traditional, like Black people, right? Like just right. So he's like, I'm good at math and science. What are my options? I could be an engineer. My mom's an engineer. I was like, I don't want to do that. My dad's in law enforcement. He was like, you don't want to do that. And so then it was like, well, what's my other option? Well, I didn't incur too much debt or whatever, and so I could go back to school. I'm relatively young. I could go back to school and freaking be a doctor, because that's what they do, right? I didn't know I didn't know anything else, right? I couldn't be an artist because I failed. Like, it just like it just, and so I literally kid you not, I talked to my dad. I sat him down. I was like, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, right? Because I've been to Portland a couple of times, obviously, because I was at Oregon State. Been to Portland a couple of times. And I was like, it feels like, like Berkeley light, right? Like it just like, it's like Berkeley vibes, but like they rather go to their house than like sleep in a tree, right? It's like that's how I looked at it, right? I was like, and because I got burned in LA, I was like, I hate LA. I don't want to be there anymore. And so, but the reason was I wanted to be close to like all the Oregon State connections that I made, and I wanted to take advantage of that while like they still remembered me. And then and I knew of like 3 medical schools or 4 medical schools, right? One of them was OHSU. And so I was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just like go there and try to get into OHSU. In my mind, I thought I could just take the MCAT because I had a master's at this point. I thought I could just take the MCAT and I could just like apply to school. I didn't know like I needed to do the prereqs. And so then it became like, okay, where do I do the prereqs at? I could do that at freaking Cal State East Bay in Hayward, but it would have costed me more to like stay at home and commute and like go to East Bay and do all the prereqs than for me to just move up to Portland and just like go to Portland State and do like a postbac to do the prereqs there. So just because it was cheaper and I just wanted a reason to just like move to Portland, that's what I did. I didn't know it had like a creative scene or anything like that. I was like, what in the world? And so like literally as I was going through like Portland State and doing all that, first thing I thought about, I could get on the newspaper, right? So I just did the same thing that I did, sent them little samples or whatever. And then I started getting, I was in the newspaper, doing stuff for their newspaper. Like, so I was getting published. And then, I was able to like be just like a regular student for once. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got so much time to do all this stuff. And that's when I started like working on the Island Fever stuff. I was working on this, project Black Superheroes Matter. And that ended up like, picking up and doing some things. And I really got an opportunity to see like, what does it look like for me to take the drive that I have from football? Because mind you, I was only like a year out, like maybe like a year and a half out, right? So like that drive from football, I was like, what would that drive from football translate in the creative space, right? Well, I had a whole bunch of stuff to do and a whole bunch of projects to do, and being able to balance that with all the school stuff was really easy because I was able to do that with football. And I just didn't realize how much of a time demand like football was in the context of all that. And so, it was just like, it was very reactionary in many ways. It was very reactionary to the point where I lucked out and ended up in Portland in a time where me just doing things at the pace and the drive that I had really translated in ways that I didn't in LA. And so it was really refreshing because I felt like I did the same things that I was doing in other places, and being in the right place and being able to navigate the right spaces really played. I mean, the rest was history from there. Like,
Stephen, now that we've talked before in the past, and I had no idea there was that much, but I did just pick up on something that's very interesting. The last thing you said was that your efforts and everything you were doing in other places really gained you some success here. And what's funny is that's when I moved from Chicago in 2011, and it's when I got to Portland. And Landy, I've known Landy, Landy's from Chicago as well, and she saw the things that her name's Chicago Landy, so, but all of the things that, like, I didn't become a professional nerd until I got here.
Yeah.
Like, I was always a nerd. But, it was when I got here and discovered, because I didn't know either about the creative spaces here in Portland. So I think I definitely understand and identify with that last statement, sir.
Yeah. I literally had no idea. I was shocked and surprised. I was like, what? And like, not even that it's like a very big creative scene, but like the comic book industry, like the comic book scene here, is like, you can't be serious. Like, such and such
I didn't even know. What? I didn't know Dark Horse was here until I got here.
Right. And like all the stuff that Dark Horse does.
Yeah.
Like what?
And now Image is here. Image is here. You know, like and all these writers and artists.
Yeah, all the major, like Miles Morales and was created in Portland.
Yep.
Like what? Like it's just like it like and so to that point, right? I found that out because I was like, oh, there's a comic writing. When I my first year here was also when the documentary was in the Portland Film Festival, right? And so I came up to check out Portland before I moved up here because of the film festival. And so then I was like, okay, like this is the spot to be at for me. And so one of the things that I saw from one of the talks I went to for the film festival was with one with like David. David was like on a panel, like David Walker was on a panel. And so I got to meet him. And then when I moved to Portland, I think it was like in the spring or whatever, I was looking on it. I found out that they had like a comic writing course, whatever. And like he was teaching it, and he was teaching it with Brian Michael Bendis. And so then I was like, wait a minute, they got like a comic studies program here. They got this, they got that. I'm finding this stuff out like 6 months after I moved here. You know, and mind you, I'm taking prereqs for like all the NCAT stuff, like all the medical school stuff, right? So I'm taking freaking all the biology and the organic chemistry, biochem, all that. So I was like, dude, I need to balance the schedule out, right? So like I hit them up and I was just like, oh, because I was in a like a post-bac program. And so like you have to get like authorizations for things. And so I just hit them up. I was like, hey, you know, I need to have a full-time schedule, but I can't take just like 3 science courses or 4 science courses every term, whatever. So I need something to balance out. And so I hit up like David and Brian and was like, hey, would it be okay if I just like audit the class and just sort of like check it out or whatever? And so I ended up doing it. And then like halfway through the class, they were like, why don't you just sign up for the class? Or like, we could just get you in the class or whatever. So I was like, what? Do that? And so essentially like every other semester, I would essentially sign up for their class and like just keep taking it just to fill up the space. And that sort of acted as my like way of like fine tuning like my creative, like, you know, it was like, you know, fine tuning creativity like 3.0 under like Brian and David. And so with it really like allowed me to like sort of be in a context where like I already have the drive and already have, you know, sort of the things that I'm doing, but like being able to like constantly like pick up on that to the point where I think I got to the point where I just started making pages because, you know, they're just like, you know, the money is in the pages. You make pages, right? Like you make pages, you make a book, you make sales. Like that's just how you go. Right. And so, you know, from there, I was just like, okay, you know, I got the stuff. What do I do with it now? And then I got introduced to all like the small business scenes and stuff in Portland and comic conventions and stuff like that. And so it was just like one thing after another. And then come to find out, you know, one of my mentors, that was one of my mentors from Oregon State, Mike Rich, who's like one of the writers for, like Mike Rich. He was like, hey, you know, I know you love comics and everything. Do you know Dark Horse, right? And I was like, yeah, of course I know Dark Horse. He was like, oh yeah, well, you know, one of my good friends is the owner of Dark Horse, Mike Richardson. And it's always funny because his name is Mike Rich, and Mike Richardson. So I was like, oh snap. And so from there, you know, I linked up with Mike Richardson, and you know, he's pretty much been a mentor for me since I like moved to Portland. And so every time I like, you know, as I was going through and like doing stuff with like Brian and David, and you know, just creating my own stuff, like I would always just like meet with him every, you know, couple of months or whatever, and just keep him up to date on everything. And you know, even throughout, you know, trying to get into medical school and all that stuff, because he was just like, okay, you're trying to do this, like get in the comics like space and stuff, but like you're also trying to do like medical school, and everybody that like learns about that, they're like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder how long you're going to keep that up, right? It's always just like a curiosity, right? Just like at some point you'd be like, I'm gonna just like not do one or the other. Like something's going to give. And I think the interesting thing is that like as time has progressed, nothing has given. Like it just like it all is just sort of elevated and elevated and elevated to the point where like, you know, I'm in too deep on both of it. And so it's always, you know, I think the level of consistency that like I think football taught me. I'm just like, you just got to pay your dues. And when you're good, regardless of how people feel about it. And, you know, that will last the test of time, right? With this, I don't have to worry about, I get injured. I'm going to be sitting down anyway. It's, you know?
I mean, unless you lose your like finger in some sort of taco accident or something. I don't know.
Look, for all intents and purposes, but by that time I have enough stuff. I'll let AI do it. Like just
as long as you didn't lose your thumb.
I mean, they go steal it from you. They go steal it from you anyway. So
yeah. Just like because like, you know, for all intents and purposes, like I'm in an AI lab right now. Like it's all written in Python. I have to build machine language models and for predictive stuff and analyzing big data and all that stuff on a regular basis. Yeah. You know, just like it you know, it's just like when Photoshop came out and like people was tripping off of like, oh man, you're not a real artist because you don't mix paint. Yeah, I want to live till I'm 75. I don't want to live, you know, to 50 because I've been, you know, smelling freaking toxic fumes from mixing paint all the time. Like, and so it's you know, I think a lot of it is, for me at least, it's, you know, the having an opportunity to do something is a luxury, and being able to do something and also not have to convince people why it matters, that is also a luxury. And so for me, like throughout my journey, a lot of it is like, the things that I do are because those were the only opportunities afforded to me. And they were the ones that I created myself. And they were the ones that I knew I can be consistent as possible with. And they spoke to the things that I cared about. And it just so happens that at some point I just got really good at making things that people like. And now, you know, I mean, now it's like it is over for everybody. Like it's you know, because they let me in medical school, and this is as wild as this is. I think I'm the most creatively fulfilled now, because for all intents and purposes, the drive that I had to sort of like build up my sort of creative career was the same sort of drive that I had to sort of build up my like tech career, which overlaps with all the creative stuff. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, that's the same sort of drive that you need to get into medical school. Because it took me, you know, I was in Portland for 2 years for like the post-bac, then another 4 or 5 years just trying to get into medical school. Yep. Right. So like I remember
when you got in too.
Yeah. And it's like 3 applications, 70 rejections before I got my first rejection. I think I spent like maybe $10,000-$11,000 just like on applying over the course of those 3 to 4 years. And you know, and a lot of it was just like, okay, you know, like, how do you tell your story? How do you market yourself? How do you set yourself apart in all these nuanced ways? And a lot of that was really, you know, me learning how to do all that stuff was a lot of me just really learning how to like create something from the ground up and then convincing people that it matters to the point that they'll pay me for it. Right. So it's just like, it's a lot of these soft skills that like I benefit from now that I didn't, you know, I hated it. Like, I didn't want to do this stuff, but like, I appreciate it because, you know, it allows me to navigate the spaces that I'm navigating in now a whole lot easier. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, it just to where it, like, I'm just now coming to terms with like my journey to where like I don't feel a lot of animosity towards like the things that happen. And a lot of it is like, you know, I felt some type of way about like football. I felt some type of way about college athletics in general. I felt some type of way about sort of the the things that I was led to believe mattered, and then at the end of the day, not seeing that stuff really matter in the context of being a functioning adult. With relationships and all those things. And I think the thing that was very clear for me is that, if I get to a point where I, have convictions in something, I'm willing to do it, rain, sleet, or snow, it'll work out. Right. And, you just sort of have to trust that process. But that's kind of what you have to do at the beginning of every, football season anyway. Right. You don't know if you're going to suck. Right. You don't know if you're going to suck. Even if you suck the first game, you don't know how it's going to play out, right? Because if you make it to a bowl game, then like you had a successful year, like you just regardless. So it's like.
Go ahead, Lindy.
I have a question because it keeps coming up, so I am dying to ask you this question. So football is a very like physical thing, right? Yeah. Where and then you seem to have been playing it for a while. You're outside, it's physical. So how do you, I don't know if the word is like modulating the drive that is required to play football into motivation to do such sedentary work, which is like arts or even just studying and going to medical school?
So the transition of it. Okay. That's a good question.
Yeah. So, and this is like a thing. It's really challenging. It's really challenging for guys in general, like any sort of athlete. There's a point where like they finish playing and then like their life changes overnight and they go through this like big, like possibly multi-year like spout of like depression, right? Because it's like there's no offboarding, there's no like transition out, there's no nothing. So you're stuck with this like skill that is valuable to people, but they don't teach you how to translate that to something else. There's no internship, there's no nothing, right? And so for me, I luckily got injured. And so overnight,
isn't that crazy to say?
Yeah, like I luckily got injured and could not play. I could not walk. And so like for all intents and purposes, I had years, like I had a year at least from when I was at Hawaii to Oregon State, I had a year at least to just like figure it out in like a safety net, right? Like I was still in scholarship and stuff. And so like all I had to do was just like graduate and I got my degree and I still had 2 years left to play. Right. So like I had that peace of mind of like I could do whatever. I just need to make sure I'm ready for the season next year. But like I can't do anything if I'm in a wheelchair right now. So like I just got healed.
What was your undergrad in?
It was in psychology. I initially wanted to be a math major, but I initially wanted to be a math major, but the department chair of the math department at Hawaii had a thing against athletes, and he made it a point to design his test to where you couldn't complete them in the time. And so with it, I felt that was not a good situation for me to be in, and I decided not to be a math major. And so, but I knew how to study. I did not know how to study. I knew how to navigate higher education in a way that like benefited me. And I say that because when I got to medical school, I learned that I didn't know how to study, because that is a whole another beast. And I struggled because of that. But I knew how to navigate the education system, like secondary education and stuff, to my strengths. And because I knew how to do that, and I knew how to do that consistently, and I also knew how to like pick my schedule in a way that was like very helpful for me. And so I was like one of the very few student athletes that like we had like study hall as like freshmen, and I only had to go to study hall for like the first semester because my grades were like I didn't need any help with the studying part. And what I would do as a way to get out of study hall is I just got a tutor for every class that I took. And so then, if I needed help or whatever, then like I had somebody to help me. And if I didn't, then like, and then at some point the tutors were also in my class. So like, I just had like a study buddy. It's like, I just learned how to do that. Just learned how to like be very resourceful and like,
like try to find ways to like keep agency and like not kind of give it away, because it's really easy to just get caught in it. And just at the end of the day, you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. And so I didn't want that to happen, because injuries and, you know, playing schedules and this like really gets to you. And so, yeah. But like, yeah, I had time to sort of figure out what that transition looks like for me. And so when I got to Oregon State, it was kind of like I had an idea of like how to make it, like how to translate it. And then I kind of had that second chance to see how it can integrate within me still playing. And so that was sort of like transition 2.0. And then, you know, when I officially retired and kind of got to Portland State and everything, then that was like transition 3.0 of like, okay, I have a couple years under my belt of like doing this. How far can I take it now that I don't have football holding me back, or, you know, have all these things holding me back? And so, but like, I would say that's probably like the thing that I appreciated. And I think that's the thing that really got me through, you know, because I think when I moved to Portland, it was one of those years where like it rained for like 200 days straight. Like I was like at some point I was like, man, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. But like I think I ended up like making like the first volume of like the first like official book of like the Island Fever series during that time. And so it really, you know, I was really able to like lean into like my strengths in a way that I was familiar with. And then I found out that Portland was an amazing place to have a book. Great place, especially graphic novels. And so yeah. Like it's like that part sucked. Especially because like it's a feeling that like you have, and you like I have a lot to give, but like there's no avenue for you to like pursue that. And then when you talk to other guys that like also in your boat that didn't have the opportunity to like develop a skill or whatever, they're struggling really bad. And so I think like a point of reference for me was like, yeah, it sucks for me, but like such and such is going through it right now. Like that's just like it. I feel it sucks, but it don't suck like that. And so and so that like that all happened too, right? Because, you know, like I played with a couple of first rounders, right? Like they're having the time of their life, right? And like social media is starting to pick up and stuff. So like you're able to keep in contact with everybody. But like, you know, comparatively, like we all were sort of in this thing going together. And now like some people are doing cool stuff, other people are on food stamps and sleeping on couches. Like, and it's just because that's just not like we didn't try. It's just that like it didn't translate in the ways that like we thought, or like, you know, you didn't get lucky. And so, so yeah, that was tough. And the thing is like the institutions and stuff will be like, oh yeah, like you're only going to, you know, like football's not going to last. This isn't going to last. And this, like, you should reinvest in other things, whatever. I did all that. Like, yeah, I'm looking back at it. I was like, man, I probably would have been better off just like not doing anything else, but just playing football. Like screw school, all that, because like the people that did that, it worked out for them. Right. Whereas me, yeah, I got academic awards, and now those are just like, you know, making my bags heavier. Like, just like it just right. Like I appreciate them now, but like I never thought that I needed to wait. Yeah, I didn't think I needed to wait 10 years to like finally appreciate the stuff. Like, what can happen in 10 years? I need money. Like, it's I think for me, like being able, like with a lot of my work, like I think there's a lot of that sort of sentiment in there, like the frustration. And I think that frustration of like, I did all the things I was supposed to do, and I was led to believe that like things will work out for me more immediately, and not like things will just sort of happen. Opportunities will present themselves. that was what I was led to believe, right? Like, people want you, companies want you, all this stuff. Like, it's really hard to find you. Yeah, until you're out there, and then you don't get, like, I didn't get hired nowhere. I was flipping burgers. I was, doing album covers for people that I didn't want to do just because I needed 50 bucks. Like, just like t-shirt design for people. Like, it just.
I can see how you would become disillusioned because you were promised that something would happen in a certain way if you did a certain thing and you held up your part, and it didn't kind of work out that way. And, so like I work with young people, and I have I have a hard time like keeping them focused and engaged. So I wanted to ask you, what is any advice you would give to encourage that process where you try to figure out where your passion lies?
Honestly, be like, what do they like? At the end of the day, like, what do they like?
Yeah.
Because if they like something in entertainment or any industry, there is a avenue to explore with that, right? You like anime, but you don't know how to draw, but you're really good with numbers. They have a finance department. Like, that, right? At the end of the day, it's just business, right? Like, it's run by companies, and companies need to do their taxes. Like, they need to do payroll, right?
Absolutely.
Like, they need, like, it just, and so a lot of it, I think the thing that has really helped me is I knew how to, I had space to, I had space and time to just like figure out what I liked, what I cared about. And then I had an opportunity to, sort of get exposure in different areas of that. And not a lot of exposure, but like at least some exposure. And because I got opportunities to get exposure, it allowed me to sort of see if it worked out, cool, I'll keep doing it. If it didn't work out or I don't get to keep doing it, well, there's other things to explore with it, right? Yeah. Perfect example is like, I'm a medical researcher right now. One of the reasons that allowed me to be a medical researcher is I am really good at animating and building augmented reality and virtual reality experiences. And how that translates is, headsets like the Meta Quest or whatever, those are how most research labs sort of collect data on patients. And so for the most part, you have to know how to build an experience for a headset. And so you need to know how to use games tools. You need to know how to, complete projects creatively, even though people are going to experience them in the context of a research domain or like a health education domain, right? But like, you're servicing the same population in a different context. And so people will see it as if people don't see the vision and see the value and have an understanding of it or have an exposure with it, but they hold the opportunities. You kind of have to weather the storm, right? People will gaslight the mess out of you until you get to a point where they see how valuable it is, because at the end of the day, like, it serves a purpose. And so, you could go to any situation, you'd be like, oh yeah, marketing doesn't matter. Why would I care about social media? Until you're trying to launch a project and you want people to know about it. And then you see how much people care about that project when you don't know how to let people know about it.
Yeah, Steven, that was a really good point you made too, because like, honestly, that's how I made my career in marketing for like 6 or 7 years straight, because nobody really gave it any attention. And to be honest, when I was working at Dark Horse Things from Another World, I'm the one who started their social media program, because they just were like, we don't need that. I'm like, no, we really do. If you paying attention to what's happening right now, you actually do need this right now. And then, they didn't think that was a job. And I'm like, I guarantee it's going to be a job going forward.
And
then Landy, go ahead.
Like right? Like one of the things that I was told going into medicine is that we should stay off of social media. Doctors don't have any business being in social media. Obviously we see how that bit them in the butt, right? Like it's like, and so literally, like, there's literally, like, I kid you not, they would tell us like, it's in your best interest, stay off of social media, there's no business there, whatever. And they were telling healthcare professionals that, like the boards were telling that, right? Because you know, you didn't want to share too much or this or that, or it'd be a liability. Yeah, it literally overnight, people that are like, I've been itching to do this, and now they creating like it's a whole new landscape from pre-COVID to post-COVID. Like things literally changed overnight.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I mean, I follow many doctors, actually.
I do too. I was just going to say.
Right?
Yep.
Landy, I was going to say, in regards to your question, though, and it was a great question. I think for your specific, setup, I can imagine that you're probably going to have to be the one to create the time and space for your students to figure out what it is they do like. And I think that's probably, I mean, because you're very good at that kind of thing. I think that can be a new module for you to
Absolutely.
get them to broaden their thinking of what the possibilities are. Because honestly, that's probably the limitations they're dealing with right now.
And how they wound up within carceral systems. I agree. I work with students in carceral systems.
Yeah.
Well, it's not because they're not entrepreneurial. It's not because they're not resourceful. It's
Exactly.
just like right. Like if anything, they're too resourceful, right? Like it just like, and so for me, right? Like one of the things that's been very clear, and I've come to terms with it. I really despise sort of like the luxury for me is just having a regular job, right? I just want to wake up, go to work, collect a check, and do the stuff that I want to do with the stability of having the financial stability, right? That's been a luxury for me. It's not until now, after getting to medical school, I'm in medical research now, I get a check every month. I'm like, wow, this is great, right? But like the core things of what I do are no different than what I was doing. They're no different than what I was doing, just hustling. It's just I get to work within. I get to apply those skills within an organization or a framework that's more established. And so if there are things that I have questions about, I can ask somebody about them. But you get to a point where like you're the expert in that, and your pathway speaks to that. But you got to start off at some point. And so the earlier you get that exposure, and the earlier you get to sort of make mistakes and sort of learn from them and all that, the better off you're going to be later on. And that could be, you'll be better off next week. You'll be better off next month. You'll be better off next year, right? If you start right as a freshman, and then you get to being a junior, okay, you know how to navigate this now, right? Like you don't have as many questions, and you can take that. You only have so much capacity, and so like once you get used to sort of like how things work, then you get to sort of reclaim some of your agency and really see how you fit yourself into it. And that's one of the things that I've seen, not only in like the tech space, but also in like the medicine space, where a lot of people that are like doing well, that are like my peers, it's because they started when they were freaking 12. Whoa. So of course, after like, 10 years, 15 years, of course they're going to be ahead of the game. Of course it's going to feel like second nature. I'm over here struggling, trying to get through this multiple choice test. They learned how to do all that stuff when they were freaking in middle school.
Exactly.
It's not because they're better. It's just that they got started earlier. And so they're just a lot more familiar and a lot more comfortable with it. Because things only work out a certain way, right? Like,
true.
That's just what it is. So,
well, let's talk about that for a second. And I'm glad that you recognize that. And first of all, I think I want to give you kudos for one, recognizing where your faults were, and then and then trying to improve upon that. Like, because earlier you said that you learned that you weren't actually good at studying, and I'm sure you've remedied that by now. But I think that like a lot of times because it made me think of this. A lot of times people compare themselves to others too, but they let that hold them back. You see it as just it's a difference, and you do things a different way, and it's not like a reason to beat yourself up about it. It's just that they're different, and they may have had an edge in this capacity, right? Whereas there's probably several things that they're looking at you for, and it goes like, he knows just naturally how to do these things, and I still like cannot figure out how to get from A to B in this realm.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's because of your life experience. Their life experience was more multiple choice tests. Your life
Mhm.
experience was outside. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And some measure of
It's
discipline, I can imagine too.
right.
yeah, it's I I'm going through there's this part of me that feels like everything that I've done has been like reactionary, and it's sort of, I didn't the actions that I made with regards to like certain context or certain scenarios are because something happened. I needed to respond to it very quickly, right? Uh, for me, it was like, how do I get to a point where I can either foresee something happening, or I have enough practice to where I'm not just giving a knee jerk reaction, right? And so for me, it was always about, okay, if I figure out how I work, or if I figure out my workflow, or if I figure like I practice responding, because that's like going back to sort of football. Like, you don't know what plays are going to be called. You don't know how things are actually going to play out. You have a small amount of time to like respond to it, but you sort of approach it methodically, right? Like you do this, when the ball is hyped, you drive to the ball in these certain angles. And if you don't do it, then like when you go back to review it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I messed up because I didn't do this thing that I'm supposed to be practicing, right? And so like always tried to like skill up in
Mhm.
both like technical skills and soft skills. And a lot of it was just like, okay, well, there's this little mixer. Let me go out there and let me take a book and talk to them about my book and meet somebody, because that could translate to me, knowing how to like do an interview, or knowing how to like do an elevator pitch or whatever, going to conventions and just being able to sell somebody something, and just sort of gauge what they like about my work, but also what they like in general, so I can inform how I create things in the future, right? Like it just like all those things are all just like learning experiences for this like this very specific journey that you're on, that like you kind of have control over based off of how you choose to like navigate it. And the sooner you sort of like acknowledge that part, the easier it's going to be later on to like navigate it in the future as you get more applications in, right? Because it's like my
Mm.
life has gotten significantly more busy since I started medical school, and
What?
a lot of the things that I'm doing now are pretty much still the same stuff that I'm doing,
Mhm.
you know, up until then. Um, but it's just that like I'm able to navigate and balance my time and approach it with the with a lot more experience under my belt. Of like, I don't have to do an all night because I
Mhm.
need my sleep, because I need to be able to devote myself to you know 6 to 8 to 9 to 10 hours of work, and have that translate and not lose and not have diminishing returns, right? And so, but I'll be up for 18 hours. And so if I'm up for 18 hours and I already put in the work for 10 hours doing this thing, then I can kind of chill, and I have the skill set that I was working on, right? And so, oh yeah, let me just like make a little cartoon for a couple hours a day, every day for the next 4 months. I got nothing else to do. And I can treat that as art therapy. And then at the end
Yeah.
of it, when I finish it and I release it, then it becomes more art therapy because I get to show it to people and people like it. And so it sort of picks up on that. And at the end of the day, I don't really need to make money off of it because I'm in medical school. We're just talking about a different type
Yeah.
of money here, right? And
But
so, like,
it would be very interesting for you to like kind of journal your experience through art as you're in medical school. Like
yeah,
if you actually had the time to dedicate to doing one art piece per day or something, the kind, or maybe per week, you just do a week wrap up or something like that. I still think that somebody would find it interesting in the future.
yeah. It the what I was doing during like my board exam stuff is or like second year in medical school to like my board exam stuff is I would work on a page a day for a comic. And so like I always knew that I had something to look forward to creatively, and I was working towards like a larger goal. And so at the end of a 3 month study period, if I did a page a day for 3 months, I mean, it's a 100-page book right there, right? And so after I did that, then I did another one, and I did another one, and so on average, like I probably finish a new 100-page book every like 8 months, you know, and so like that's been pretty consistent for the past like 3 or 4 years, yeah, about 3 years, and so yeah, so I always like every year I always have a new book to come out with in the series, and for me, I need it to be able to balance the stresses that come with, you know, like the life that I chose to sort of pursue. But on top of that, it allows me to sort of like keep the skills that I've sort of developed over the course of my journey, still pretty relevant. And as I get deeper in medicine and all that, like I find ways to incorporate the things that I'm just very skilled at doing into my practice, into my educational practice, into all those different things. And at the end of the day, people are people, right? So like I go and I around and I see patients, and I'm working with physicians, and somebody cares about certain things, and like it overlaps with the things that I do, like that helps, because a lot of it is about communication and building trust. And so like if somebody gave you a cute sticker and you really like this cute sticker, you're probably going to trust them more. That's just what it is. Like,
a little bit. It'll earn them a little something. Yeah, like all right.
Yeah, you'll get a little consideration. Yeah, just like, and they put it on their water bottle, and they love it, and it just speaks to them for whatever reason. I mean, like, and you gave it to them, like it just like that. That's like people pay. Yeah, like people care about that. People pay attention to that, and so I've grown to appreciate that, like those elements a lot, because those are the things that matter. Because at the end of the day, like it's all about people coming together and being, like working towards a common goal, whether it's their health, their entertainment, their avenues and opportunities. And like going into the physician space, you see that like you have a lot of influence in it. And I don't really know what that really means wholeheartedly yet, but I'm getting a lot of, it's becoming a lot clearer as like I progress down this path, and it's wild.
No, I believe wild. It. And that reminds me, the audience, Slackers, Slack Pack, after hearing our conversation, I would love to hear some of your thoughts in the comments. If this is brought up some experiences from your own life that you wish to share, or, if any of us have said anything that you want to chime in on, it is welcome, as long as it is delivered with respect. We would appreciate that. And, just, give us your feedback and feel free to ask questions to Steven as well, and I'll make sure he gets them. But also, in the description, you can probably contact him directly with all of the links I'm going to put in there. So,
yes.
Landy, quick thing. Did you have any other questions in mind that are bugging you for Steven?
I do have one last question.
Yeah.
Okay. So asking for me, you are, what I hear you say is you're a medical researcher. And I found that really interesting in light of the current administration that has been famously defunding a lot of research. So I'm curious to know, how does that impact the work that you do? Any ideas that you have on how it might impact the research industry as a whole? And do you still think that it's worth it to pursue a path in research? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I describe this. To make a long story short, when all this stuff started happening in January, February, it essentially meant that I will have to extend my program at least 6 months, because the things I'm supposed to be doing in April, I will have to push back to at least August. Oh. And hopefully it doesn't get delayed anymore, right? And so for me directly, it has forced me to extend my expectations, like the timeline and expectations for me to PhD work. because for me, I'm currently a MD PhD student in an integrative neuroscience program at the in Nevada, right? And so all of and I'm one of 3 MD PhD students, right? And so all the medical research and everything comes into Reno in my institution, and all the research opportunities and stuff gets dispersed across the island through my institution. And so for all intents and purposes, like everybody is freaking stressed out. Everybody is like, things are getting like not getting continued funding. It's just like it's like the advancements and the things that we kind of take for granted just in society are essentially taking a backseat to like people's children. And like, people have livelihoods and people have their whole sort of lives and stuff, regardless of what, area of the spectrum you're on. Like everything is interconnected, right? And so like the only people that are really like doing well are people that have like military contracts and in like areas and stuff that are protected. I'm fortunate that like I'm fortunate in that like I'm in like med tech, like in the truest sense possible. Like I'm in sort of like the very heavy big data, like medical research areas that, I work and I use headsets and tools that cost more than cars, right? Like it just like, and multiples of them, right? But the limitations are very clear, because you're kind of walking on eggshells, because you have to make sure that you deliver in these very specific ways that are to the liking of the funding sources, because there aren't as many clear-cut funding sources now, right? So like I think my experience is very much skewed in terms of like what my research experience is like, because I have industry tech experience coming into it, and then I have sort of the expertise of like, what you need to know to get through your first board exam of medical school, right? And so I'm in a very unique position, and I'm in a very fortunate position to navigate this, because I'm not subjected to the things that like most bench lab researchers are, right? Like compared to the other MD PhD students that are at my institution, I'm one of them that doesn't have those, like, I'm not as subjected to it, right? I have to extend 6 months for me to like submit a grant, but like my research is funded by, very specific sources that are protected in funding, that have a lot of money to put towards things, so, it just, but it sucks.
Part of me thinks that's because the fields that you're in are adaptable to other things that they might want.
Yeah, it's like I say, and it took me a little while to like really like sink in with it. Like I'm in an integrative neuroscience program, right? So the whole point of the program is to integrate neuroscience into any discipline that it can be associated with anything, right? And so I thought that it would help me narrow down like what I actually want to do. It actually made it worse, because I now see more things that I could integrate into by me just doing the thing. So it's like, it's not
and I'll be honest, knowing you, that is very dangerous for you.
It's like everybody.
It's interesting.
For all intents and purposes, everybody, and this has always been the thing, right? Everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Steve, you need to slow down, because once medical school starts, like, you can't be doing all that stuff." Oh yeah, I'm deep in medical school, and things have gotten worse. And the problem is that people go out of their way once they find out that I can animate or I can do this, whatever. They go out of their way to tell me their idea that they think would be perfect for me to pursue right now. And then they want to put me on a publication. And so I'm just like, okay, at some point, like, you got to be very clear with what we're talking about here. Like, you want me to spread myself thin, but you also don't want me to spread myself thin because you want me to complete things, but you don't want me to not complete things, because then things aren't going to get done, not only for me, but also for other people. And because there's a lot of stuff that kind of sucks out there, and I can just make it better a lot quicker.
Yeah. If there's one thing that's become clear to me, is that I'm gonna have to check in with him more often. That's
I would appreciate that.
I'm just,
'cause
yeah,
it's,
I'm gonna have to
it's
check in with him a little bit more often and just make sure that you aren't doing 80 million things again. And
well,
yeah,
it's like the issue that I'm finding is that like in this path, right? Like I'm one of 3 MD PhD students in the whole state, and I'm the first Black person to pursue it in like a MD, like a dual degree in the state, right? And so with it,
no
if you
pressure,
know
no
sort of
pressure.
like yeah, like if you know the sort of like the context of like being Black in medicine, but also being Black in tech, and then being Black in research, like and having that intersection and navigating that in a red state that has less Black people than Portland, like it's right, like it presents a like it's a great opportunity. It's an amazing opportunity, but like the thing that is challenging is navigating the like perpetual state of like alienation and isolation. Whether it's because you are too far ahead, like you know all the medicine stuff, so nobody can talk to you about that, or they feel comfortable talking to you about that, or you know more about the tech stuff than like the lab leaders, or like just it's always something. And I thought that going into like medicine and stuff would like not perpetuate that, right? Like post COVID and all that. Like I thought I would kind of have this community and sort of have these lifelong friendships and all that stuff. And I have a great opportunity, but like the things that I thought I would get from it that go beyond me just like working, it just didn't happen. It hasn't happened, and so that's the thing that kind of sucks. And but I get to travel a lot, which is fun. And so I get to meet
Com-
people and stuff. So
Completely random. Are you a Libra?
no, I'm not.
No?
Scorpio.
Okay.
No.
That was
You're
great.
Scorpio. Are you an
Yeah.
October Scorpio?
November.
November. Okay. Okay. It was the wide range of things and the pursuing different things simultaneously that made me think Libra.
No, it's okay. I would say it looks the same, comes from a different place. I think that if I had more clear cut, substantial opportunities to focus my attention and to sort of get through things, be an adult, like collect a paycheck and stuff, I think that I would have. I would have stuck with just doing one or two things, but because it quite literally did not pay the bills, and I had to do certain things,
Yeah.
and I had to do certain things for like such a long time. It just like that's just like how I see the world now. Like it just like I can't unsee it because that's just what I know to be true. So,
Well,
so yeah,
you're out there, so yeah.
yeah. So I wish I didn't have to, but the more I lean into it now, like the better it is for my career. So I just, it's like there's two things that I just like kind of grinds my gears that I had to just sort of suck up and be okay with is the fact that like I'll be a forever freelancer because physicians are they essentially negotiate their own contracts, so they're independent contractors. And so if I want to pursue medicine, I either have to have a startup by creating my own practice, or I'm sort of like a contractor with any institution. And then the second thing is I'm going to have to continue to be like multidisciplinary in like the truest sense possible, especially in medicine, right? Like I'm going to have to know how to navigate a lot of different spaces in it. To everybody's benefit, also to my career, like to my benefit in my career, but like, the luxury of me just being like, oh yeah, I work here and I like to do this and I like to do that. Like the lines get blurred in these ways because like the things that I do, the things that I enjoy doing, at some point people will like want to pay me for it. And so like those things that are typically hobbies now can sort of evolve into like obligations that like kind of take away from like why it was a hobby. And so I'm always in this constant sort of flux of like finding things that like I feel compelled to do that I'm not obligated to do. And that really changes like every other week sometimes. So I believe it. But yeah, like But it's fun. I enjoy it.
Okay. Wow, we have talked about a lot today, y'all. And this has been a very deep session. And here's what I'm going to do, because I don't think that our journey with Stephen is over yet, y'all. But here's what I want to do. I want to end our first session here now. And I think I'd like to have him back so that we can go over some of the other aspects of his life and background. Just because, I know certain things, but I feel like there's more stuff to be shared. And I think that because of the way you've answered a lot of questions here, you may be able to weigh in on some other topics that Landy and I have in mind. So we'd like to know if you would be willing to come back at another point and just weigh in on some other topics as well in the future.
Oh yeah, look at it. I ain't got it. Look at it. It's summertime. Look at I get to iron in a lab all day. I get to hang out and get to do some stuff and talk about some fun stuff and not do it alone. What? Say less.
Okay. Word up. Okay. So Slackers, Slack Pack, thank you if you're watching this, and I hope that you gained something from this conversation. We covered a lot of things today, and it's been pretty heavy, but it's been insightful. I've learned a lot. And I hope you have too. But let's try to end on a good note. Landy, give us something interesting and good that we can go out on. What you got?
I was ill prepared for this question, I have to admit. I have nothing prepared to say with this regard.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate that. I'm so happy that you brightened my mood. Stephen, is there any piece of advice that you would just like to give in general before we head out?
Yeah. It is selfish of anybody to keep the things that they like or make to themselves.
Word up. I feel that. Okay. I mean, unless you like Nazis, you can keep that shit to yourself.
Yeah. I would say, right, like one of the things, right, like if it's an idea that like you really enjoy and you think it's a good idea and you show it to your friends, just like share it with the world, right? Because I found out that a project my first animated project that I created back in 2012. So I told you I wanted to be an animator, right?
Yeah.
I finally made my first animated short in 2013. Put it out there. It took on a life of its own. I found out 2 years ago that there's a subreddit literally based off of the project that I made, and it literally has shaped. It's I'm dead serious. I'm responsible for an area of the internet that people literally just has resonated with people. I found that literally a random day, a random day in the middle of medical school. I was studying. I took a break because I was procrastinating on something, and then somebody kept saying, "I came here from the subreddit. I was like, I ain't got no subreddit. What y'all talking about? just I'm just
wild
wow.
As hell.
Hell. So it's don't if it's a good idea and you think it brings you joy, share it with the world because you have an opportunity to change lives.
I know so many people that can use that advice, and I'm going to make sure I spread that. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay.
I won't say what the project is because if you know, then you'd be like, yeah, of course Steve made that. But it's.
I mean, I'm gonna know. I'm gonna know in a few minutes. But okay. On that note, we're gonna get on out of here. Thank you everybody for watching. I'm gonna give up the 2 fingers for the peace. Everybody else say goodbye byes.
Bye. Oh.
Adios. Ooh, yeah. You gotta. Are you on a Mac?
Yeah, she's on a Mac.
Okay, that's why.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Everybody take
AR.
care. Right. There you go. I made it reality. Like you said, everybody take care, and we will see y'all in the next session. Make sure you follow back up and turn on notifications so you can see when Steven is back, and I'll make sure they're posted and everything. So, all right, everybody, take care and peace.